Hey guys, it's a new month, it's November, so I thought, hey, why don't we make a new rant? It's been a little while anyway, and what I'm here to talk about is the content updates we have received the last few months. So if you're not up to speed on Skyblock, what has Skyblock really received? So there has been dungeon floors, there has been a new mayor election update, and there is the new spooky festival content. And to start it out, let's talk about the new spooky fest items because you might think it's really cool, but I don't really think they are. So right now, as it stands, there is one or new talisman plus a talisman upgrade. So this is a really good talisman if you have a lot of bats out. But there are very few situations where you have a bunch of bats, so again, this is kind of mediocre, and it's only a rare artifact, or a rare talisman, so it's not even that good, which is a big shame. And besides that, you have this Ghoul Buster, which is useless unless you farm the event. And then you have this Vampire Witch Mask, which I don't know how this works against the spooky mobs. But I mean, people have used this to AFK farm, so it's good, I guess. The Candy Sack, cool. And then like this stuff to defeat the mobs faster. So, all in all, also the upgraded thing takes 1,000 candy, which don't even get me started on that. Like, the whole candy scaling in the shop is really weird. Like, it goes from taking up like 1 or 200 to taking 1,000. It's just like, okay, 1 to 2,000 for like the cat and that. That's just like my little side complaint. But so they tack on this to spooky, and especially with Mare and Spooky Festival, what they have really done with Skyblock is make limited time events a core mechanic in the game, which I despise. Content should always be available to the player, unless it's legitimately a limited time event. These are recurring events that happen, once every 5 days, give or take. A good example of this is Scorpius, who we just had. That is a good example of a limited event, where it might come back in the future, might not, who knows. But mostly, the spooky, the mares, they'll come back. But it's just annoying. Because by doing this, for a natural, the natural time to complete the new updates would take quite a bit of time, longer than, you'd think. Let's say you decided to go for the new stuff, the new spooky stuff. I received like 16 ectoplasm, which was a new currency. And to get everything I wanted, I needed 2.5 stacks. So basic math tells me that it would take, 10 spookies? So, me to participate in 10 spookies, that would be 50 days of waiting for spooky festivals. So that is quite a bit of time. Thankfully, there's auction house and stuff so you can go buy them from other players, but rip Iron Mans if they ever want to, be really competitive. So that's a big feels bad for them. So, again, you gotta wait 50 days to pretty much fill out all your stuff from the event, which is pretty insane if you ask me. So I guess that's more so thinking from an Iron Man perspective, which probably isn't a good thing. But having content be limited is kind of weird. So they updated Spooky, so that also probably means they'll update Jerry. Jerry will get some new stuff, which is cool. But again, it's just that to me, I don't like it. And I know it's to be like, hey, that's just a you problem. But by doing this, what they allow themselves to do is stall out content releases. And what I mean by stall out content releases, so you see with Mare, we see with the community projects, that you have a bar to complete the community project. Which, it's cool, you get some extra bonuses for contributing, awesome. But at the same time, they can, increase them, like what they did with it currently, is they increase the amount of, contribution needed, so I guess it was completing so fast they kind of had to, but they increased the amount required, and they could do that with any of them, really. But it's been there for over a week now, and it's still not complete, but it should be completed soon. But once it gets 100%, who knows when it'll really come. And the mayor's happening, once every 5 days. So it's been it'll be 2 months and then a week or so of the mayor update being around. And we've had the mythological ritual event twice. So I guess you could say we have it once a month. So we're due to have it in November, I guess in a week or so. Maybe it'll be in the next election. but who knows? But surprisingly, even with something like that, the item prices are by after the second event are very low, which is to me surprising. Personally, I would like the mythological ritual, which seems to be the most content oriented mare, to be, its own island. I think a lot of people had thoughts of that. It would be really cool for, there'd be like a mythological creature island. Definitely something they should look into, since they already have a baseline for with like, a weapon. They could definitely add in some new mobs, new armor type. They have like the baseline for it. They could take it a step beyond the mare and, take it over the mare thing. Since I think mares itself, it's stuff like Scorpius is very cool, but at the same time, it's not as for me as interesting when it's like, okay, I can get skill XP or I can get content, which I think is kind of like a frustrating situation for a lot of players, since all people are at different points in the game. And sometimes people don't want to do content, sometimes want to get their skills up, which getting skills up is a fairly big deal, especially, combat, but there's no combat mares, so other than myth. That's kind of like a weird thing to talk about, I guess. Besides that, I mean, my main complaint was that with myth, because item prices were fairly wild. Because like my main interest is Chimera book and stuff like that. And surprisingly, its price was fairly low. It hovered like 15 mil, like a few weeks, like a week or so after the event, which is interesting. But there has been leaks for new enchants, which are really good. So yeah, like All for One, I believe. If you guys haven't seen the video, maybe go like check that out, because it is gonna be pretty OP when it actually comes. Which does lead into dungeons. So we have received, the last few dungeon floors, which is 5 and 6, I believe, which they were interesting releases. They added a new berserker and tank and slash mage equipment and major, like they added a bunch of stuff. Not too many complaints from the dungeon end. My main complaint is, I believe in one of the posts, I don't hope I'm not making this up, but they plan on taking a break for after the release 4.7. Which 4.7 is still not out. Hopefully it comes out in the next few weeks. We have some new content to do for a bit. Because, new spooky stuff is like 2 seconds of content. My bad. 1 hour of content every 5 days. But yeah, anyway. And to me, that is a little worrying. Since we have not been getting content drops too often as it stands. Like, I guess you said we could be, because we're getting a lot of dungeon floors. But if we're not getting any more after floor 7, then what about the next 3 floors? What is going to happen with, new islands and other stuff? Because if they wait, then the floor 10 gear, the gap will be insanely high. And what do I mean by that? So right now, like the strongest sword, I'm not even sure what the strongest sword is at this point, so I don't want to say. But whatever the strongest sword is right now, that Dungeons floor 10 should be giving, the best of the best. But if they go and release some new islands before floor 10 that gives a really good weapon, does that mean they're just going to overshadow that new island weapon with floor 10? Again, this is all like speculation and stuff, but like in the future, when is this stuff going to be coming? Like, when is floor 10 coming? When are we getting new islands? When's the Abyss coming? There's a lot of questions I think need to be asked. Like some kind of roadmap or something I think would be really cool, especially going into next year would be very nice. We can have an idea what we can hopefully expect, because they have received a lot of money from the new pay system, the gem system. So hopefully that comes into play, which should start coming into play next year. They got the new staff all trained up and stuff, able to do things, which should be great. So as I said before, hopefully, next year, 2021 will be a really great year for Skyblock. I really hope so, since 20, last year felt really slow. We didn't get much content at all, which I guess we kind of did. We got Spooky and Jerry and Slayer and stuff. All in all, what would I like to see, going forward? Just some, new stuff that actually takes, time to do, right? Like, it's like, hey, get X skill. Hey, grind X mob enough times. And then, make it so it's not tradable. You can't trade it or anything. So you actually have to grind it and don't make it like insanely low drop rates, because it seems like the rates are always insanely bad, and people don't want to deal with like really, really bad rates, like getting an Easter egg, but that's another thing. But yeah, I think Slayers or just anything would be really cool. But if you guys have any ideas for like interesting content you'd like to see going forward, for like Skyblock, definitely comment below, because I'm always interested in like reading ideas, because it does help with, like my own theory crafting, and then, you guys definitely, I've read some really cool stuff, but unfortunately, it's unlikely any kind of cool ideas that we come up with would ever be added. But hey, maybe one day. Anyway, if you guys listened to this rant or, discussion, I don't know what to call it at this point, thank you guys. Maybe leave a like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Have a nice day. Bye.